Hello and welcome to episode 76 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers, by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this week's episode is brought to you by Mr. Boxster, who has become our latest Patreon supporter. Mr. Boxster, who hails from Wisconsin, has decided to join the hello ranks of our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to help support the show, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com/onthebench and contribute any amount from $1 upwards. Your support of the show is greatly appreciated and helps cover production costs. The Scale Modelers Supply lacquer paints are a new and exciting range of paints specifically designed for the scale modeler. SMS paints have been formulated for airbrush use on a variety of scale model mediums, such as plastics, resins, and even metal. Being designed for airbrush use, all the guesswork with thinning ratios has been completely eliminated. All you need to do is give the sturdy glass bottle a good shake and then simply pour and spray. And of course, being an acrylic lacquer, they are tough. Much tougher than water-based paints and are very fast drying, giving you more time at the bench. SMS paints have a massive range of colours to choose from that will suit any scale model, including Gunpla, car, science fiction, aircraft, military, and even trains. And did we mention they also do a variety of weathering products, brushes, tools, and accessories? Go and check out the full range and find your local stockist by typing in scalemodeler.com.au or simply punch in SMS paints to your search engine. And hey, great news if you're in the US and Canada, SMS paints are now available through usagundamstore.com. So give SMS paints a try. I know you'll be happy with the result. And hello and welcome to the show, and g'day Ian.
G'day Dave, g'day listeners.
Well, there's just the two of us, no Julian today.
No Julian today, unfortunately.
Yeah, Julian's had a bit of a COVID-19 scare.
Yep.
So he unfortunately potentially might have come in contact with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So he's absented himself from the studio.
Yep. Smart move.
Scary world we're living in at the moment.
It's very weird. Very, very weird.
I mean, and the thing is, we've got no reference point for something like this.
No, not in our living history anyway.
No. I mean, the last sort of major outbreak, like something like this, is obviously back, 1918, 1919, 1920 with the Spanish flu epidemic.
Yep.
And the whole world's just gone nuts.
Yep. Yeah, people are stupid.
Protocols.
Putting it plainly, people can be stupid.
Protocols and lockdowns are like we've never seen or would have ever expected to see.
Panic buying. And
yes.
That's just crazy. Absolute lunacy. You go to a shopping centre now and shelves are empty. There's more people than you usually see on a Christmas Eve shopping, and it's just mad.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. And, there's the automatic lockdown of people,
which for us
14
modelers
days.
is heaven.
Oh, it's absolute heaven. Oh, my God.
Like 2 weeks of sitting at home doing nothing but building models.
Gee, what a shame.
Heaven.
What a shame.
Yeah.
I think modelers are perhaps one of the, next after preppers, modelers are the best prepared to sort of
exactly,
sit down.
yeah.
See, there's the reason why we have stashes.
Yep.
So we can isolate ourselves and build away to our heart's content.
Correct, yes. As the world burns, we build.
I have to feel sorry for Stuart and Anthony over in Canada, though. They've both come down with a cold.
Oh, really?
And they had to delay their on the bench their scale model podcast for a couple of days because they're both feeling a bit under the weather.
Oh,
but even and they're fine now because they just pumped their last episode out just recently.
Oh, that's good. That's a good sign.
But even the strange thing is, you feel guilty if you go out and have a cough or you sneeze or something like that.
I know. Yeah, you cough or sneeze and everyone looks at you.
Yeah, exactly right. It's the weirdest thing.
He's plague-ridden, unclean.
But you know what? Some of the benefits, if there is a side benefit to this, would have to be local model hobby shops would have to be doing a boom business now.
Yeah.
Because mail isn't sort of working as it normally would.
I've noticed that. I've been waiting on a couple of packages from overseas, and they haven't arrived yet, and I don't expect them to arrive for at least another month.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm waiting for a package from Malaysia.
Yeah, and I've accepted that. I've gone, oh, well, I realise what's happening.
Yep.
So just be patient.
Not only that, because all the currencies are crashed, so it's too expensive to buy overseas now anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got to shop within your own area. And
well, B&A's good.
Yes, exactly right. And I mean, this comes down to the thing that it struck me when I was sort of recently purchasing something from overseas before all this stuff blew up. And I thought, this is going to be a real benefit for local hobby stores. The price of mail now is so expensive that it's becoming almost, unless you're buying a large sort of bulk order, the cost of purchasing something online because of the costs of shipping is becoming prohibitive now.
Correct.
So you're almost better to go to your local hobby shop, and I think we're going to see this coming full circle. We're going to find hobby shops coming back to the fore again because shipping's so expensive.
Yeah. I see your point, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we're blessed here where we are. I mean, as I said before, we've got over 15 hobby shops in our metro area, so we're well catered for.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But plus, we've got B&A online.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you know, with B&A, if you spend over $150, it's free shipping.
Yes.
Which for me is always free shipping.
Well, because we buy a lot of ships. I mean, they're generally, you can't get a decent kit for under $100.
Yeah.
And by the time you add your photo etch and everything, you're well over that limit.
And I've been buying all those modules for me desk.
Oh, yeah, I have too.
With the drawers and...
Yeah, they come from Poland from
memory. Yeah. I bought two sets with the that are the top module that you can put all your paintbrushes and stuff in. So I've got one side for paintbrush, the other side for files.
Yeah.
I've got underneath one of them, I've got the 3-drawer system.
Yes.
Which I've subdivided.
Yes.
And the other one, I've got the 6-drawer system, which I've also subdivided.
Yep.
So it's cleaned up a lot of me bench. So now everything's basically in front of me.
Yes.
So that's what I did last weekend. Didn't do hardly any modelling. Except for me wheels and me Canberra, which I'm really impressed. I don't know if you saw the photos.
I did see the photos on Facebook.
Yeah,
yes,
but compared to the clown tyres you get with the kit,
clown tyres.
Well, I don't know, there was something off a clown plane or one of those bush planes you see. But just reorganising and just getting everything set up nicely now. I'm really comfortable. I'm really looking forward to once we knock off today to head back home and hook back into the Canberra, even though now I don't have a time constraint since Expo got cancelled this year.
Well, all the model shows have been cancelled now.
I think Wheels and Tracks were still going on, wasn't it? Or they end up cancelling that?
I don't know. I'd be surprised if that's going ahead with the latest requirements.
Yeah, because you can't have any more than 100 people here in Australia.
If you're... hang on, I'm going to think now. So the latest government stuff they published was that indoors... You can't have more than 500 people in a venue.
No, it's now to 100.
It's now down to 100. And outdoor venues, you can't... outdoor venues, you can't have more than 500. And indoors, you can't have more than 100. And then you still have to have one person per 4 square metres or something.
So that's what one thing that intrigues me, though. How does that work with shopping centres?
Well, see, it doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How are they going to do that?
I don't know.
Put bouncers at the door?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's
That's all in the future. It's all to see. We'll see that probably all roll out the next month or so.
Well, this is the other thing. This thing isn't going to be over in like a month or 2 months. It's going to be 6 months, 8 months, even 12 months. And then there's the huge impact to all local economies. I mean...
Well, I'll tell you one trade that's going to really be booming over all this, plumbers. And the reason I say that is because of the massive world toilet paper shortage.
Yeah.
People are now using facial tissues and hand towels.
Yeah.
That stuff doesn't degrade.
It clogs up your pipes.
It clogs up your pipes. So I've been speaking to a few plumbers in the last few weeks, and they're just grinning from ear to ear because they're seeing the dollar signs coming in the next few months when they start getting like 20 phone calls a day. So, my toilet's overflowing.
But I mean, crazy things like borders been completely locked down. So, and this is worldwide. Like US, you can't get into the US, you can't get into Canada, you can't get into Australia.
Yep.
They're just not coming. Even our little state to the south of us called Tasmania, which is an island state,
even that state has sealed its borders to the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So
Madness.
interesting times. Well, through all this, we truly and sincerely hope that all of our listeners out there
That we do.
are looking after themselves, taking care.
Wash your hands frequently.
We hope that you're enjoying your self-imposed
Lockdown and modelling.
Yeah.
Modelling lockdowns.
Yep, and that you're getting lots of bill time in.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
it is a strange world.
Mm.
All right, well, how about we have a look at... We got a lot of listener mail that came in, huge amounts.
Oh, have we? Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good,
And,
Dave.
of course, if anybody does want to write to us, and we so much enjoy getting your emails, you can do so by sending us an email to onthebench64@gmail.com.
And remember, folks, you can't catch the virus through an email.
Well, that's very, well,
Yet.
well, you can still get a computer virus, can't you?
Oh, you can get it, yeah, but not this one.
All right, let's have a look now. Who we got? Brian Hughes writes in, G'day Benchers, I come to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA, and wish all you Aussies well. Praying
Thank
for
you.
rain down under. I love the show. Your personalities are such that I can listen to you guys talk about anything. It's the highlight of my fortnight.
Thank you.
I am a novice, and by the way, I've been to Boston. It's a beautiful city.
Oh, so I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely gorgeous. And
It's an old city too, isn't it? Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, it is. You know, Boston. I haven't
Probably
been
one
to
of the oldest, I'd say.
Yeah, that and Philly and all around there. I've never been to Philadelphia, but gee, I was in Boston. Let me think now. Back in the 90s, and it's just a gorgeous city. I wouldn't mind going back there to tell you the truth. I think it's really a pretty part of the US. So Brian continues on. I'm a novice modeller. I modelled as a teenager, but was never any good. Well, were any of us?
None of us were. We did back then. We didn't know the word patience.
I also only airbrushed about three. I've only also airbrushed about 3 times in 30 years. Understanding that airbrushing is the convention and not to use the hairy stick. I'm trying to airbrush my models now. Mm-hmm. Good on you. My problem is that my bench is in my basement in a room with no windows or doors, so I have no place to vent the fumes. Because of that, I have not purchased or built a spray booth. I have 2 models ready to paint, the Academy 1/72 scale F22, painted as a P-38 night fighter in the Pacific. Oh, that sounds awesome. Mm-hmm. And also I have a Hasegawa F15 DJ trainer, but I hesitate to spray in a closed room with my furnace running.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you guys have any advice how I can spray? As of now, I am just building and waiting for the warm weather to spray in my shed. Hardly clean and dry. Thank you, boys. Brian Hughes.
That is a problem. If it's enclosed with a furnace, and depending on what paints he's using, it could be creating a bit of an air fuel bomb situation. That's the difficult. He's in the basement, so I'm just thinking maybe if he runs like a long enough pipe up the steps and out the door, just something that he can easily just clip together when he's spraying, and then when he's not spraying, just unclip. Either that or just make up a multi-filter system. So if he has like a spray booth and has a filter where normally he'd be pumping the fumes out the back, just put multiple, probably about 5 or 6 filters in there. And that will, by the time it gets through the 6th filter, you've pretty much caught all the garbage anyway.
Yeah, but you need the spray booth in such a way that's going to suck all of those aerosol droplets into it. So
it needs to be totally enclosed. It's a bit of a tricky situation because my way of doing it would have been to basically just get some tubing and just
try and vent it out.
Try and vent it out. Like even if you got 10 metres of tubing, that's still better than no tubing at all. And if you make it that it's modular, you can unclip it. Then when you're not spraying, you just put it at the side. When you're spraying, just open the door, clip it all together and pump it outside.
And of course, even with that, when you do spray, you're going to make sure you have a proper respirator that you're wearing or mask.
Definitely.
A P2 mask isn't going to cut it.
No.
You need something a bit more high grade. Have a look at what the professional spray painters do in body shops. and how they protect themselves.
Yeah,
So-
it's just full body suits.
Well, there's full body suits, and then there's positive air
Yep.
head masks that they wear, which is full face.
Have you seen the price on those things?
No, I haven't.
They're very expensive.
Are they really?
Yeah, yeah. That setup. You're talking big bickies.
Yeah.
Big bickies for a setup like that.
Another possible way of getting around it if you're in an enclosed area like that, and this is quite topical because with all the virus stuff and everything, but you see them when they're working in labs, and if you remember back to your days at high school when you worked in the science lab, they got that sort of great big enclosed area with a huge fan, and they got the glass screen, so all you can put underneath or into that little area is just your hands
Yep.
when you're working on mixing the chemicals and stuff. If you could replicate something like that, and again, repeating what you said, Ian, with a decent sort of suction venting
Pipe,
it
yeah.
outside, then that'll be a way to go in an enclosed area.
Yep.
But I think really, Brian, you're going to have to look at perhaps getting that shed up to scratch.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's another way of doing it.
Yeah. Weatherproofing the shed and maybe
Drying it out, cleaning it out.
buying it in wintertime, having a cheap heater in there just to keep it warm.
Yeah, the winters are cold in Massachusetts.
That's right. And paint don't like cold weather too much.
Yeah.
You end up with frosting and all sorts of bad things.
Well, there's a few ideas, Brian. Perhaps some of our other listeners who are in the sort of area of the US where it snows like that may have some other tips that they can sort of perhaps point you to. So we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for your email.
Yes.
Next up, Andrew DeBoer.
De Boer.
Yeah, Deboer.
Yep. Which means Andrew the farmer.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah. Boer. Boer is Dutch for farmer.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's Boer War.
It is, of course.
When we were fighting the Dutch farmers.
When we were fighting.
Yeah. Well, we fought in the Boer War.
We did too. Yeah. G'day, benchers. I enjoy your recent discussion about movies featuring the actions of destroyers, starting with the upcoming Greyhound featuring America's national treasure, Tom Hanks.
Who's in Australia at the moment under lockdown.
Yes. You read my mind when you brought up the topic of Taffy 3, the task force, which would have been annihilated in the Battle of Samar,
Yep.
if not for the actions of the destroyer escorts.
True.
I was a bit let down when I discovered that Greyhound is not about this event. I would recommend the book, The Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors by James D. Horfisher. Riveting reading.
I've heard of that book mentioned so many times, and I still yet have to get myself a copy. I've heard it's a really good read.
Oh, wow. And, I agree completely with Andrew. I cannot understand why anybody hasn't done a movie about Taffy 3 because,
it'd be amazing.
In the annals of naval warfare, it'd have to be one of the most riveting and nail-biting battles that ever took place.
And something like you don't have to embellish it Hollywood style. If you just do it as it happened, you're just going to have one of the most exciting films ever.
The charge of those destroyers just going full pelt towards
Was it
the
the
Japanese
Johnson?
fleet.
The USS Johnson
might
was
have
the
been.
first one that just went headlong up against, I think it was went up against the hay.
Yeah.
And basically nearly went side by side, nearly trying to. It's just lunacy, absolute lunacy. But it worked.
Yeah.
Scared the Japanese, and the Japanese turned around, whereas they could have easily just wiped everyone out.
Yeah. Gripping stuff. So that's from Andrew DeBoer from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Thank you.
I'll put that one aside because I need to talk about that one later. James Catola. And James comes from Winter, California, USA. Or Whitler, I think it might be. Yeah. And he writes, "Hello, Dave. I'm attaching pictures of my recently completed Mobius Mars Attack Martian Warrior kit. This kit features a Martian warrior stepping over a zapped victim in search of another." Great movie, by the way.
Oh, Mars Attack. Brilliant movie. Brilliant movie.
The kit is based on the 1956 Topps trading card series of Martian invaders taking over the Earth. I modelled my kit more off the original trading cards and less of the 1996 Tim Burton movie. It was a great kit to build with good fit and quality moulding. Except for the Martian cobalt green suit and base of sidewalk and street lamp, everything else is hand painted. The kit did not include the power pack and cord for the ray gun, so I made that from scratch. I also added a flickering LED street lamp suggesting power is failing in the city as the Martians take over.
Great idea.
My only other problem with the kit is the glass space helmet is modelled in two parts, which leaves a horrible seam in the helmet. Because the Martian heads are so bulbous, the helmet tapers down to the shoulders. So is there another way, two halves? So there is no other way. Two halves are needed. But it is really ugly. Maybe you have some tips on how to handle that. Love your show and continue to support, and I will continue to support you. Thanks, James.
Now,
there's some pictures there.
With joining glass bits
Or plastic.
glass bits, what I found, and I've tried it a few times, is the two mating surfaces, run a bit of black paint on them. I know it sounds weird. You're putting black paint on the mating surfaces of the two parts that are going together, but when you do it with the clear bits, it vanishes.
Really?
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's weird. It's an optical illusion.
But then when you glue it, won't the paint sort of just melt a little bit because you're going to glue those two halves together?
Yeah, but it's the best way of getting rid of that seam line. Either that or doing some really tricky vac forming or maybe if you find a decent enough thin clear resin and use a rubber mould.
Yeah. Any other suggestions for perhaps, I mean, because when aircraft modelers generally have a seam, they'll polish that seam out.
You can't. Yeah, but that's just
you can't do it if you're going to join it though.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a
tough one.
It's a tough one. It's a real tough one because I know there's a few aircraft kits I've got. Like I think it's the old Monogram 48 scale Liberator. I know the front and rear turrets are in two halves, and it goes through the glazing.
The only other suggestion I've got is to actually assemble the glass or the helmet, and then make a
mould
out of that, and then vac form on top of that mould.
But don't forget it curves down, so you're gonna have to try and get it out of the mould.
Yeah, but if you vac form it on a decent vac forming machine, it would do it in one complete bit.
Yeah, but don't forget you're sleeving over the top, so you've got a mould that tapers at the bottom, and then you're putting a vac form that tapers at the bottom. So you're going to have the bulbous bit trying to get through the smaller hole at the bottom.
Ah, of course, yeah. Gee, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one, yeah.
I think I might leave that for some of the other listeners to perhaps chime in, and because I've got no idea.
My only suggestion is find a really good clear resin that you can cast thin and make a rubber mould.
All right, next up we have from Ethan Eidenmill, who is from San Diego, and Ethan's one of our regulars. Ethan writes in, greetings from California benches. I just listened to your segment on movies to inspire modelling, and I agree wholeheartedly with Tora, and also the idea of making a movie about the Battle of Leyte Gulf. As a science fiction modeller, I also watched the original Star Wars trilogy, I should say, and Rogue One, which I reckon Rogue One's one of
Rogue One's rocks.
Best. Yeah.
That's a great movie.
As well as Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. Oh, I wouldn't say that's one of the best ones.
Wrath of Khan's probably one of the best of the Star Trek movies.
You think so?
Yep. For the original series, yeah, definitely.
Full Metal Jacket is one of my go-tos for the Vietnam era. Yeah, although I just watched last night The Battle of Long Tan. The movie, the Australian movie.
Oh, haven't you seen that before?
No.
Danger Close.
Great
movie, isn't it?
Awesome movie. They got just about everything right except it was raining. It was at night, and they did it during the day for the movie.
Yeah.
And it was great to see them portray the Kiwi gunners, the 105 gunners. They were just, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Ethan also continues, I haven't watched it in many years. He's talking about Full Metal Jacket. But I haven't watched it in many years, but I'd like to watch Lion of the Desert again. I recall it as one of my go-to movies when I was younger. Maybe my perception of it will have changed now. I don't think I've seen Lion of the Desert.
I've heard of it. I am familiar with the name, but like you, I can't remember if I've ever seen it.
I've probably seen it, but I can't recall it. Ethan continues, I have to respectfully disagree with you about the movie Midway, however. I recently rewatched it after I've been reading Shattered Sword by Jonathan Parshall and Anthony Tully. I find it to be mostly in agreement with that book, and overall I enjoyed it even more watching it the second time. I would, however, be interested in hearing about your issues with the movie. Always great. Great podcast. Best regards, Ethan.
Well, I can't comment because I haven't seen it.
Well, I have seen it, and I saw it on the plane. You know, funny watching a Battle of Midway flying on a plane. But I watched it on the plane, and I don't know, it just didn't grab me as much as I sort of... Don't get me wrong, the effects were really great. I just didn't get the sense that it told the story in the detail that it needed to be told, which is difficult when you're doing a movie. I understand that. And perhaps I do need to take a leaf out of your book, Ethan, and sit down and watch it again, maybe on a big screen at home. So I'll definitely. And Shattered Sword is just
Shattered Sword is
best
the
book.
penultimate book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
Has to be one of the best researched and written books of any battle that I've ever read.
Yeah,
those two guys are absolutely brilliant.
What gets me with the book is it's minute by minute.
Yes,
and it tells you what happened then, and then 5 minutes later, what happened then.
Yep. So for those of you who haven't heard of it, Shattered Sword is the book about Midway, and it just went into detail and actually showed why the Japanese lost.
Yep.
It was just amazing.
Fire control.
So I wrote back to Ethan, and I suggested to him that one of my favourite sci-fi movies is an old one called Silent Running with Bruce Dern, made back in 1972.
Silent Running. Is that the one with the little robots?
Yeah, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. You know, and I watched it about 2 years ago, and it still stands up. Yeah, it's amazing. It was really good.
Space Truckers. There's a classic.
Oh. Okay, Andy Rausch. R-A-U-C-H. Rausch, thank you. Yes, you got it right last time too. Andy writes in, "Hey Dave, I hope this email finds you well. Not sure if any of you have heard of this site or not. I just received their latest catalogue in the mail and thought I would pass it on because it's a really cool website. I'm sure Ian will get a kick out of the pages in the back, lol." And the catalogue he sent was historicalaviation.com, and it's just got a whole heap of cool stuff in there. It's got that you can buy. It's got, and the part that I really like was there's a whole heap of metal signs with the old pin-up girls on them.
Oh, right, like they've just cut out a sheet of the aircraft. I've seen that done before. It looks great, doesn't it?
This wasn't so much cut out of the aircraft; it was just like on a metal press. Oh, it's some great stuff.
I'll have to check it out when I get home.
So it's historicaviation.com. Historicaviation.com. And the catalogue is just absolutely
check
wonderful.
It out.
It's got a whole heap of nice stuff in there go and spend your money on.
Yeah, you know what I'm like. Great, I'm going to be spending more money this afternoon.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Awesome.
Simon Thomas writes in, and he says, "Hello, bench legends."
Oh, legends
now.
Okay, thank you.
Great episode as always. On topic with the new movie Greyhound and other great war movies, but you failed to mention Das Boot, and we did.
Das Boot, yes, great movie, except for the very end where they get bombed by Heinkel's.
The best submarine movie thus far. I rate it very high, and if you haven't watched it, you got to watch it in native German audio and English subtitles.
And you got to watch the uncut version too. Goes for about another half hour.
Does it really?
Yep, yeah, I've got it really? Yeah, it's good. Excuse
me, I just had a cough then. Just a normal cough, folks, so relax.
Relax. You're not going to catch a virus over the airwaves.
Simon continues on. Also, a movie I would like to see as a prequel would be to the movie Fury. In the movie Fury, Brad Pitt's character mentions that he had fought Germans in Africa. A prequel is set in Africa is what I would like to see. Cheers, Simon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have a lot of problems with Fury. I never enjoyed it.
Oh, I did enjoy it for what it was worth.
But what ruined it for me was that last bit where the whole sort of battalion of SS is marching past and this one tank sitting there holding them off. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been one of a perfect war movie.
Yep.
But that last stand, just not. But you're right, though, Simon. It would be, yeah. I'm just trying to think.
Tunisia, where the Americans...
Kasserine Pass.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure the movie Patton touches on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether there's been any other movies that have sort of covered the Americans in North Africa.
No, the only other one I know of where they do touch on it, but it's not from the American side, is Valkyrie.
Oh, yes.
Because that's where he gets wounded.
It is. Very good. Mr. Aidan O'Donnell writes in, "Hi guys, I really enjoyed the last episode and have been giving some thought to war movies I'd like to see made. My first choice would be a movie about the siege of Kohima in 1944. It's spelt Kohima. An epic story if there ever was one. I don't recall what that siege was.
Me neither. But I'm going to be checking it out.
I am too now. The next would be the story of Captain J. Zima and his crew. In June 1943, Zima and his men flew a vital photo reconnaissance mission over Bucha and Bougainville that resulted in a 40-minute running battle with a swarm of Japanese fighters.
That'd be exciting.
I do remember this one, yes. Zima and his bombardier were awarded the Medal of Honor.
Now, was that the what do they call it? The Swoosh? The B-17, the Swoosh? Was that the one?
Now, it was a B-17.
It was called the Swoosh.
I do recall this story because Captain J. Zima, he was a bit of a maverick, and he ended up building this B-17 out of parts from another B-17.
The Swoosh. I'm sure that they named it the Swoosh.
And all of his crew were a bunch of misfits and, people who shouldn't have been in the Army or the Air Force or whatever, but he sort of pulled them together as a crew. And they did. He took off and he flew this mission across Bougainville. And Bougainville, back in 43, was still the sort of central Japanese sort of,
And don't forget, you're flying over the Owen Stanley Ranges, so you're flying over some really nasty countryside.
And it was a 40-minute running battle with Japanese Zeros. I mean, there were, tens and tens of fighters continuing to try.
The Japanese had a hard time with the B-17s.
Did they?
Yeah, because there were so many firing points from a B-17. The Japanese always went for the soft underbelly. You can't do that with a B-17.
Oh, same with the B-29s. They had a lot of trouble with them as well. Yeah. Oh, gee, excuse me, folks. Lastly, I would love if Ken Tout's book Tank were made into a movie. The British-Canadian forces in Normandy tend not to get much attention, and it's high time that they were acknowledged. Yeah. Best regards, Aidan.
Thank you, Aidan. That's a very good point.
With everything you've said there.
Yep.
I've done that one. Oh, good friend Ian has written in. Hello, benchers, and greetings from the Great White North. That would be Canada for those less worldly travelled. I love this podcast. Your light-hearted camaraderie makes for easy and relaxed listening. I was recently part of the joint podcast with Dave and the guys at the Scale Model podcast hosted by IPMS Hamilton in the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum. It was a fun and memorable event and truly shows the universal enjoyment that we all get from the hobby. I had the honour and pleasure of judging the first annual Musaru Cup Challenge. The models presented by Ian and Anthony were both excellent examples of the skills, abilities and imagination of today's modelers. Congratulations again to Ian for his well-earned victory.
Thank you.
During the podcast and judging, I learned that Ian's now award-winning Arjaja was going to reside here in Canada, which got me thinking, which is usually a dangerous venture.
It's for all of us.
That Ian could enter into the upcoming Heritage Con competition as a proxy entry. And we actually looked into that, and I chased it up with Anthony over there to enter it in your behalf, but I think Heritage Con's been sort of cancelled now. So... So you're going to have to wait until next year.
Yeah.
So next year you're going to be the Aussie entry into Heritage Con with your model kit.
Oh, sounds great.
That's pretty
I'm
cool.
happy with that.
Now, lastly, we have another email from Ethan. And Ethan writes, can Ian provide more details on his technique for using Tamiya extra thin cement as a decal setting solution?
Playing the dangerous game.
Does he just brush it on or does he spray it on? How does he keep it from destroying the decal? Has he had any accidents with it, etc.? I'm intrigued, so I might try this out in the paint mule. Best regards, Ethan. Now,
okay.
Ethan, Your email has inspired this episode because we're actually doing this episode about the dark arts of decaling.
Oh.
So what we will do is we will talk about using Tamiya extra thin later on when we sort of get to that subject about decaling. So
yes.
Thanks once again, Ethan.
Yeah, I'll teach you my little secret.
All right. How about we have a very quick break and then we'll look at what's new in the modelling world.
Sounds good, Dave.
Fine Scale Modeller is proud to support On the Bench. Fine Scale Modeller is the world's most recognised and essential magazine and is available in all good newsagents and newsstands or wherever you purchase your magazines. Alternatively, go to their website www.finescale.com and subscribe to either the print edition or the digital edition, or why not both? Go now. Go to www.finescale.com. And we're back to have a chat about what's new in the modelling world. But before we do, Ian, what have you purchased this month? Or this fortnight, I should say.
Yeah, it's becoming fortnightly for me, isn't it?
It is.
As soon as it got released, I got my grubby little fingers on the Trumpeter 1 to 350 scale USS Langley, the CV1.
And it's a gorgeous looking model.
Beautiful little ship.
Yes.
And it is small because those that don't know, the USS Langley originally was a collier, which they converted into an aircraft carrier and then converted to a seaplane tender and then converted back to an aircraft carrier before it got sunk by the Japanese. Look, it's a lovely little kit. It's going to definitely need a lot of photo etch, especially all the geodesic framework underneath the landing platform.
Yes.
But no, it looks quite nice. Very happy with it.
It's a surprisingly small ship. You say it's a collier, and because when you brought the kit over, I went and dug out my
It was a gearing class.
destroyer just to compare the sizes. And it's about a third longer than a gearing class destroyer. And to think that they used that as their first aircraft carrier to sort of test out the concept and just the historical subject is just so. And did it get sunk by the Japanese? Did it?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never knew that. It's a CV1, USS Langley. I've got to get one of them.
Yeah. And it's a nice little box. So compared to all my other ship models, it's in a small enough box. It's about the same size box you get their destroyers in.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other kit I got was I was fully inspired by one of our listeners, Ben Flood.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
with his Mad Max build.
Yeah.
So I pulled the finger out, spent the big dollars, and yes, it was big dollars because it's a rare as hen's. Rare as hen's teeth. I bought the Aoshima, depending which side of the fence you're on, the Mad Max 2 XB Falcon Coupe, which is a beautiful kit. It is. Mate, the detail they've thrown in there, like all tools you get there, you get a little can of dog food, you get his crowbar, his shotgun, you get everything. It's great. And by the looks of it, and seeing Ben's build-up, it actually looks like a really nice kit to build.
And for a car kit, it's surprisingly, as you said,
a lot of detail.
Detailed. And you're right, it's going to be a great... You're going to do it in sort of the all bashed up sort of...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm actually considering doing it from the Fury Road.
Oh.
So the latest, which means attacking one of the back tyres and filling it full of rags and so forth.
Well, that's going to be a great little kit.
Yeah. So that's my holy grail kit, and I've got it.
See, here's the thing, though. Because it's such a rare kit, would you want to build it or just leave it in your stash?
No, definitely. What's the point of having it in the stash?
Well,
it's not going to be built.
Yeah, I know, but it's such because of the rarity of it, though. Yeah, I'm torn. I'd be torn. Not that I'd ever buy that anyway, but I'd be torn.
No, that's my two purchases, which I'm very happy with.
All right, let's have a look at what's new in the modelling world. And Edouard have announced that they are doing in 1/32 scale a full plastic injection moulded kit of the Messerschmitt BF 108.
The Tulfin.
The Tulfin B/D model.
Well, if it's half as good as their 48 scale one, it's going to be a cracking kit.
Well, it's a huge kit in 32nd scale. So this is particularly interesting. Now, it was originally developed by a Czech company called the Stripe Fighter from the Folk company. The company's original moulds, but this development was interrupted, and then Edward went and bought the moulds as well as the box art, and the kit is now from Edward and is to be released in their profile pack line.
Oh, the Profi pack, yep.
And with the standard Edward equipment, which means photo etch sheet, masking sheet, and decal sheet printed by Edward with 5 marking options in one box.
Ooh, okay. So what have we got? We've got a desert scheme.
Yep.
We've got a standard Luftwaffe scheme. We've got a white scheme.
Winter scheme.
We've got a very early Luftwaffe scheme.
Which is about 1940.
And then we got an all-over grey.
Which is like a training scheme almost. Yeah. The propeller is going to be a resin prop, which is also included, and represents a wooden prop of the early BF 108. And it's added because most marking options needed this wooden type of propeller, which is not included in the basic kit. Yeah. Edward looks like they've done a great job with this, and I reckon a lot of people are going to be excited about this one.
True.
It's a really interesting looking aircraft, and you can see the heritage lines in the Messerschmitt through to the BF 109 from this one.
Definitely.
So, yeah, quite excited about that one. Bronco have announced a combo kit of 2 new Jeeps and Soldiers from Bronco models, which has 2 Jeeps in it, and it's a British Reconnaissance and Signals light truck. So it's got 2 kits in it, 2 trucks, or 2 Jeeps I should say, with 5 figures in it as well. And basically it's because it's a signals unit, the Jeeps, one of the Jeeps come with, on the front, like a area for all the cables to be placed on
the cable reels.
And it's going to be a really interesting subject.
Lots of interesting little details in these ones.
Absolutely. And did I say what the scale was?
135th.
135th.
Yeah, it'd be Bronco, it'd be 135th.
So it'll be very... Yeah, you'd need 135th for that particular scale. It's going to build a small kit still.
Correct, yeah.
Because they're only tiny in that scale.
Yeah, the Willys Jeeps weren't very large vehicles.
But
you're getting 2, so...
Yeah, well, it's a great idea. So if you're into your Willys Jeeps, definitely have a look and keep your eye open.
Because they got some interesting mods on those too.
Yeah, they do indeed. Hobby Boss have announced 2 new releases for March. The first one is the Soviet SS-23 Spider missile car with missile in 1/72nd scale.
That's a cool looking vehicle, isn't it?
All the Soviet stuff is cool looking. I don't know.
Yeah, those missile carriers, they just look mean and purposeful.
There's something very agricultural and also science fiction at the same time.
Yes.
So the S-22 Spider was a tactical ballistic missile.
S-23, Dave.
Beg pardon. The SS-23 was a tactical ballistic missile which was created by the Soviet Union after the Cold War to replace the outdated Scud ballistic missile. And of course, we know the Scud very well from the First Gulf War, do we not?
Yep. That we do.
This comes with photo etch rubber tyres. Total of 4 sprues, chassis and tyres. Model length should be about 164 centimetres and the width should be 42.8 millimetres, and comes with some photo etch as well. Now, the next one they've announced, which I'm excited about, is the Chinese Navy 031 Gulf-class submarine in 1/350 scale. So this is a Chinese-made Soviet Gulf-class submarine, which is built in the Dalian shipyard, and it was the only ever version of this type as a ballistic missile submarine. It was licensed abroad, so...
It's got a huge fin on the top, hasn't it?
Well, it has to, because the 2 ballistic missiles are actually launched out of the back half of the fin. And so what they had to do...
Because it looks like a submarine that someone's built a multi-storey building on top of.
It does. And because it's such an interesting shape, it's going to be something that definitely have to go into my modelling collection, my submarine collection.
Unfortunately, too modern for me. No. Not into the modern ships. I'm more in the Second World War ships.
But it looks, the shape, the Gulf class is such an interesting shape. It sort of had that old sort of...
Oh, it's got that old 60s Russian look.
Yeah, even back to the 50s and 40s even almost. Yep. So it's going to be a must-have for me, I think.
I just love it how the bottom of the hull's got that massive bulge hanging down of it to... I suppose that'd be there for the extra room for those missiles.
Yeah, and actually, and the counter sort of balance as well. So... Yeah, I think it looks great. I can't wait to get my hands on it. And I've built quite a few of the submarines from Hobby Boss. And
Same here.
They're all right.
They build up really nice.
Yeah, they do. They make a nice little kit. Italeri have announced some items for March. The first one is a Vosper MTB 74 with crew in 1/35 scale.
Well, that'd be a nice size.
Price is €119. And the MTB was used by the Royal Navy.
Yep, motor torpedo boat.
Kit contains 7 figures, which is interesting. And for those of you, and also photo etch, as well as some
Rope.
well, we call it lines in the nautical times, not called ropes, they're called lines.
Okay, lines.
And the markings for it for the MTB from the Nazaire raid, which is also included.
Nazaire
in the
raid,
box.
yeah.
So that should
actually looks quite nice. I know their 1/35 scale Schnell boat's a nice kit.
Yeah.
I've seen that built up a few times.
Well, there you go. So if you enjoy your torpedo boats,
Especially in a nice big scale like 1/35, that's
yeah.
going to have some serious presence.
Next up in 1/24 scale, still from Italeri, we have the Porsche 935 Baby.
And the Martini paint scheme.
I don't know much about
Martini
this particular
Porsche.
one.
Yeah, it's a pretty mean looking car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not grabbing me much. I'm pretty sure there'll be some people out there.
Oh, look,
who are
I
terribly
know
excited
of a
about
few
it.
people that would probably buy that. It's yeah, because the Martini Porsches were quite popular, and they got that really nice multicoloured paint scheme. They just look good.
It was actually built to participate in the car competitions of the FIA Group 5 category, and Porsche created the version of this, which was derived from the famous Porsche 911 Turbo road car. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a nice looking little kit.
Next is, in 1/48 scale, is an F86E Sabre. I don't know if this is a new one. I think this might be a Reeboks. Price is €30, which is not bad for a 1/48 scale
Yep.
kit. This comes in about 4 different versions, decals for 4 different versions. One for the Luftwaffe,
Which is actually-
JG72.
Which is actually a Canadair Sabre, a CL13.
Yep. Next one is for the USAF 177th Fighter Squadron.
Yep.
One for the
Looks like Italian, is it?
Italian, I think it is, yeah. And our Canadian listeners will be excited. The last decal sheet is going to be for the version D Canada Royal Canadian Air Force number 410 Squadron,
Very nice.
which is based in Europe, I believe, or actually in the UK. So there you go.
Very nice.
Unfortunately, you can't use it for the Australian version because Australia
totally
modified theirs to have cannons, not machine guns, and we also had a different engine in it
Correct.
from memory
The
as well.
Avon engine.
That's right. Now this is interesting. They're doing a carrier deck section in 1/72 scale.
Been done before. Hasegawa's done it.
Maybe this is a reboxing then.
Probably is because Italeri does a lot of reboxing of Hasegawa and accurate miniatures.
Oh, do they now?
Yep.
I know that I've been caught out with Italeri with reboxing of the Hella kit, but anyway, I won't go on about that. So this is a great little kit that allows you to make a section of the flight deck of a modern aircraft carrier with particular attention to details for the catapult, the coupling system, and the jet blaster deflector, which was used to prevent any possible damage when the jets took off.
Yep.
€25. Comes with some decals, so you can do the deck markings, and it'd make a great base for your 1/72 scale
Naval aircraft. US naval aircraft, yeah, definitely.
Next in 72nd scale is a T-34/76 1943 model. Price €12. That's a nice price for a little 1/72 scale. Again, I don't think this is a new one.
No.
It's a reboxing.
Decal options. First one's for the Polish Army. Then you got a Red Army unit, which is got whitewash. Another Red Army one, which is the unknown unit. You got a few more. Oh, you got a German one, captured German, and Czech.
A Czech one.
So a few different options.
The German captured one looks quite good, actually.
Looks quite interesting with the camouflage and
does.
the big crosses on it.
And that's it from Italeri.
From our friends at Italeri.
Nah, next now, I thought you'd be interested in this. Barracuda Studios have
what's he
announced the
done now?
release of the F6F Hellcat Diamond Tread wheels in 1/24th scale.
I've already got a set of wheels for mine.
But not only have they done the Diamond Tread, they've also done the cross tread wheels as
the
well.
block tread.
The
Yep.
block tread.
Yep.
Yeah, also in 1/24th scale, which of course will go
And-
well with your Airfix kit.
And the good thing about the Hellcats wheels is you can also use them on the Corsairs. They're the same wheel.
Oh, really? Didn't
Yep.
know that.
Yep, F4 using the Hellcats had the same wheels.
Oh. As usual with Barracuda Studios, these
Oh,
look
yeah.
to be very, very fine
Yes.
reproductions.
Yeah, Mr. Sutherland does a wonderful job with this stuff.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. Barracuda also doing in 1/48 scale the Hawker Sea Fury gear bay set.
Yep,
So this
Very
is
nice.
This is
for the Airfix kit.
yes, and it looks absolutely gorgeous the way they replicated all the lines and everything in the wheel well.
Yeah, considering what you get with the actual base kit. Well, I noticed that when I was doing my Canberra Bomber. Like
Yeah.
I bought the Aries wheel well sets for the Canberra Bomber, and they're twice as deep
Yeah.
as the Airfix ones, and the amount of detail is just astounding compared to what you get with the base kit.
Well, all the plumbing that they're showing in this particular one, and thanks here is to Camden Aviation Museum and also Steve Long, who helped in the research for developing this particular modification. And
Geez, the moulding on the resin piping is just amazing. That they actually lifted off the actual ribbing.
I've got no idea how they did that.
It'd have to be the only way I can think of it. It'd have to be like a rubber mould, so they can actually peel it away from the curves.
Yeah, but look at that piping there, how they actually got right underneath it as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They'd have to use a rubber mould. You couldn't use a solid mould.
In 1/48 scale, they're doing some Hawker Tempest ailerons and elevators, which this set contains detailed separate resin elevators and ailerons to replace the Edward kit parts. The Edward New Tool Tempest kit tends to suffer from hard-to-fix shrink marks on the one-piece solid molded ailerons and elevators. And when you're actually doing some filling and sanding, it tends to wipe out the very fine
I understand. Yep.
panel lines and fine detail of the
Yep.
rivets. So, which is really good. They're also doing a Sea Fury brass landing gear set, early style, which is now back in stock apparently. So this is a metal landing gear, and the detail they've got into this brass is just absolutely gorgeous.
Very nice, isn't it?
And so if any of you there who are out there building a Sea Fury in 1/48 scale, this is a must-have.
It's so detailed.
Yep. Barracuda Studios, go to the website and have a look.
Yep. Lots of good stuff from them.
That's all that I have for modelling news, except the announcement from Starling Models. Was it about the...
HMAS Gascoigne,
Yes.
which is a frigate, isn't it?
No. Yeah.
River class.
River class, I
Yeah,
believe.
River
So
class.
that's coming out late this year. We get some more details, and that will certainly let you know.
Someone else is going to be taking more money off me.
All right, so let's get into our discussion today about the dark art of
The
decaling.
dark art of decaling.
Because I gotta say,
Dickers.
of all the things when I do, the thing that fills me the most fear and dread is putting the decals on.
Really?
And the reason why is because everything up to that point, I've had a level of control over during the build. Mm-hmm. So any mistakes I've made is down to me.
Yep.
The decals are the unknown quantity of what could possibly go wrong or what might go wrong.
Right, yes.
And obviously we're inspired by Ethan writing in and sort of from that his inquiry about the decals. And I thought, you know what, we haven't really spoken about how to do decals.
Not for a while, anyway.
And as I said, it's...
Years ago, we had Hamish on, and we did a bit of a thing on decals.
Yeah, but it's the thing that fills me with the most dread
It doesn't
because
really bother me.
it could either go really good or it could go really wrong.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think there's a modeler on the planet that hasn't had at least one decal disaster. And it does happen, but you've just got to be careful.
So let's do a step by step how to apply decals and
Or how we apply decals.
how we apply decals.
Yeah.
And then perhaps that might give the listeners a bit of idea to learn from our lessons and our mistakes.
Yeah.
So we'll start with you, how you go through doing it.
Well, first thing I do is I make sure the surface is as glossy can be, like mirror finish.
Yep.
That way you're guaranteed you're going to be negating the silvering.
So what's silvering?
Well, silvering is basically when you got an air pocket underneath the decal. For example, applying a decal over flat paint.
Yep.
Because flat paint, the reason it's flat is because it's, when you look at it, a cross section, it's full of ridges up and down, up and down, up and down, and thus it absorbs the light.
Yep.
It doesn't reflect, because that's how you get the glossiness. It's reflecting the light back at you. And what happens when you lay a decal sheet over the top of an uneven surface, you get the air bubbles underneath it. Now, those air bubbles is what causes the silvering. That gives you that silvering look.
Yep.
And the best way of getting rid of that is to use lots of decal softener, which softens the decal, makes it very pliable, and it tends to sink down into these hollow points. But if you use a really glossy surface and then put it on, you're negating that problem.
Yep.
Because it's going onto a completely flat surface, and you're going to get, you might get a little bit of silvering here and there, but nothing like you're going to get using on a flat colour. Then once I put my decal on, I put it into this position, then put lots of decal set on it, and just leave it. And yes, you'll see it, and you'll watch your decal crinkle up and look like it's about to disintegrate into pieces, and then all of a sudden, like magic, it just flattens out. Then once it's flattened out, you check it out. No air. If there's no silvering that you need to touch up, then you just apply another clear coat over the top, and that blends it, because the decal is never going to be the same shine as the paint you're putting it on.
Yes.
So what you do is, by putting another clear coat over the top, it evens it all up, so everything's a consistent shininess. So when you put your final flat clear on, you're not going to have like really flat and then semi-flat decal. Everything's going to be completely flat. If I occasionally, not very often, use the dreaded Tamiya extra thin as a decal set. That's only extreme reasons, like places where you got such extreme curves that you just cannot get the decal softener won't do the job. When I use it, is I don't drown it. If you drown it in the Tamiya extra thin, you're just going to melt your decal in your paint. What I do is I tend to nearly just use the fumes coming off the end of the brush.
Right.
That's enough to get in there, and it just really softens it right up. It melts it, and basically you're melting it to the paint. But that's what you got to watch out. Don't drown it. Just and be careful, because I have done it myself a few times, destroyed decals using it that way. But if once you get your eye in and you got the feel for it, it works a treat.
Well, I did try your technique of using the Tamiya extra thin, because I had a decal that was just not working at all. It wasn't sitting down. It refused to comply with any prayers or sacrifices to the modelling gods I made. It just wasn't working. So I did it, but I didn't follow your advice and not drown it. And unfortunately, I put a little bit too much glue in there, and the whole thing just went, just destroyed itself.
Yeah, it just melted itself away, yeah.
And it's definitely a technique that if you're going to use, I would say it's a last resort technique.
Correct.
And practice on something else before you even attempt to do it.
And another thing, once you've applied it, do not even breathe on your decal. Apply it, walk away from the bench. Because that decal is now so soft and so malleable that if you accidentally just barely touch it with a fingertip, you're going to destroy the decal. You basically put it on, walk away, come back 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
And then when you come back and you go, yay, it worked, or oh, damn, what a disaster.
Now, let's go back to where we spoke about putting a gloss coat down first of all. So this is actually achieving two things. If you look at your basic decal, it's got a carrier film around it. And if you didn't put a gloss underneath and then a gloss on top, if you just put the decal on the model and just walked away and left it like that, you're going to see that carrier film sort of taking on a different hue to the paint underneath it.
Yes.
And so putting the gloss underneath it is you're giving a nice even surface to apply the decal. But then when you put the gloss on top, once the kit has completely dried again, you're going to hide that carrier film too to a certain degree, aren't you?
And I've found it a few times. Once you do that and you apply your clear coat over the top, and basically the carrier film disappears. It's like there is. It looks like it's painted on.
Yes.
And that's what you want to achieve.
Ultimately, that's what you're aiming to achieve. Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to make it look like you got a model kit with stickers on it.
Yeah,
you want to make it look like everything's been painted. Even though some aircraft did have stickers on them.
Really?
Look at the AVG Flying Tigers.
Yeah.
That big tiger on the side of the fuselage was a massive sticker.
Seriously?
Yeah.
It wasn't painted on?
No. There was, I remember it was about 5 or 6 years ago on eBay, someone actually found an original one and they were selling it.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. I think they had it up to about 10 grand the last I looked at it, though. And it was still in its proper tube from Disney Studios.
Yeah.
Because that was designed by Walt Disney Studios, the leaping tiger with the wings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that was a massive sticker.
Oh, there you go. You're learning something every day in this podcast. There you go. Yeah. The other thing about the carrier film, and another way to get around it, is if you've got a really fine pair of surgical scissors, you can try and cut that carrier away. Let's say we're putting down some letters on the model. So generally, if you've got, say, aircraft registration numbers, you'll have like AC7.
Yep.
So between the A, the C, and the 7, there'll be the carrier film because they want you to pull it all down in one hit. So what you can do if you're really dedicated is you can go and cut each of those individual letters out and then place them individually.
But the thing is, with especially with letters and numbers and so forth, when you're cutting them away, if you cut too much of the carrier film away, you end up with like some really weird shaped decals that you will have such a hard time getting to conform and sit into the right place rather than bending on you or so forth. In that position, yes, decal carrier film, you've got to keep on because it keeps it all nice and level.
Yep.
But as you said, like just say you've got LCF. Well, you're going to have a massive gap. So you've got LC symbol F.
Yep.
Right? So between the L and the C, you're going to have a massive gap of carrier film between the top of the L and the top of the C. Now, if you can cut probably a little bit away, but I wouldn't be cutting too much away because otherwise you're just going to run the risk of it bowing down when you apply it. Yep. Because it's keeping it all level. Yep. The only other way around it is to run a bit of masking tape across the bottom and then just line all your letters up. Yeah. That way it just takes a bit longer, but you just got to be really careful.
Absolutely. The other issue then too is, not other issue, but the other things that we have to help us is that there are things on the market called setters and softeners. Now, I use a Mr. Setter and a Mr. Softer. Softener.
From Guns.
From Guns.
Good stuff, that. I use it all the time.
We better explain how we use it. So you got Mr. Setter and Mr. Softer. So Mr. Setter is you apply it where you're going to put the actual decal.
Right.
Then you put the decal on top of that.
Wouldn't it be the other way around?
No.
Softener and setter last?
No, I thought it was setter first and softer.
We'll have to have a look.
Oh, geez, you've got me thinking now. No, it's Mr. Setter. You put Mr. Setter down first.
Right.
Put the decal down on it. And then you use the Mr. Softer to soften it up so that the decal will conform into things like panel lines, that sort of thing.
Yep.
I have used it, but the issue that I find with those particular ones is that the surface tension of the liquid that's coming out of Mr. Softer and Mr. Setter, it pulls in quite large sort of droplets.
Yes.
And it almost needs something to reduce that tension so it spreads out thinner.
Like a wetting agent.
Yeah, like maybe, I don't know. And
maybe that's an idea. Maybe you can try. Would maybe get a little pot with some water and put maybe a small drop of dishwashing liquid in there.
I was thinking about experimenting with that.
The dishwashing liquid will break the tension unless you're going to have a more even coating of your water, and then you can put your softener on top of that, or your set or whatever you want to put on first, and that will spread out a lot more even. But the question is, will the dishwashing detergent affect the adhesive on the back of the decal?
I don't know.
It's something to have to experiment with.
Yeah, I don't know. I find that I don't often use Mr. Setter, but I'll use Mr. Softer. Microsol also do a similar sort of product.
Microsol do an A and a B.
Yeah. I've never used that stuff. So.
I have used it. It's brilliant.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really good stuff. Yeah,
So-
it works that well. You can probably use it even on flat coloured paint.
So out of the two, which one do you personally prefer?
Well, it's not that I personally prefer. It's just that I've got a big pot of it. Is the guns.
Yeah.
So when that runs out, then I'll then I'll go to the other brand. But I don't have any problems with the guns stuff at the moment. I've had this pot for years. I'm surprised it hasn't gone off on me or anything, but it still works.
Yeah.
But to me, if I can, I'll get away with using the decals as much as I can. I'll just mask and paint.
Yeah, I'm moving more towards that, but again, that sort of it's fraught with its own sort of issues and pitfalls and traps. And I wish we had Julian here today. Pity that he sort of quarantined himself, because Julian at times doesn't even use a gloss paint. He'll just whack the decal straight down the kit.
Yeah.
And he's been lucky, successful. I'm not quite sure. But even our other podcast, the Scale Model Shed, one of the guys on there, he doesn't use any gloss at all. He just whacks the decal straight down.
Yeah. I'm not game to do that. That scares me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifies me.
I have done it in some occasions, but those occasions where I've done it and I've left the model and I've come back, and you can definitely see the carrier film, which annoys me. So in particular, on ship models or submarine models, for example, you've got like the plimsoll line markers, so it tells you what the draft height of the ship is. And if you put them on there, you've got that very fine carrier film that you see through. And because I haven't used a gloss underneath it and on top of it, you're seeing it really sort of stick proud of the model itself, and it looks awful.
It does, yes.
It looks absolutely terrible.
Definite fixing.
But I wish it's a pity that Julian isn't here, because I'm sure that he would have chimed in.
He'd have plenty of stuff
I
to
don't
say.
use this because...
Yes, true, Dave.
Now, there are different decals that people tend to steer away from model manufacturers, because they are what we call quite thick. And when you look at the model at an angle, they sit quite proud to the actual model once you put them down.
Depends how much ink they use when they print it, I presume.
Yes. So some of the kits that are notorious for this are, is it Hasegawa?
Hasegawa's decals can be hit and miss.
Yeah.
I find Tamiya decals can be a bit of a problem at times too.
Okay.
They can be quite thick.
Yep.
Actually, another brand that I find, they got lots of subjects, but their research isn't top-notch. Is Sky decals. Now, when you buy a Sky decal sheet, you usually get enough decals to do about 30 aircraft.
Yeah.
They're all colourful. They got such a large range of schemes.
Yep.
But their decals are quite thick.
Yep.
And I've found sometimes I've actually literally had to get a scalpel blade and cut along panel lines so I can get them to conform.
Oh, seriously?
And their research is a bit dodgy at times too. When you actually see their decals compared to an actual photo of the real aircraft, it's chalk and cheese.
People sometimes will have an old kit and they'll have the decals have got that sort of yellow faded look.
Yep.
There's an old trick that you can use to fix that.
Tape it to a window pane.
An outside window where the sun will shine through.
And the sun will bleach the yellow back out of it.
You leave it there for a couple of days.
Usually a week or so. Sometimes 2 weeks. Depends how yellow it is.
How yellow your sunshine is too, I guess.
Yeah.
In the northern
how much UV radiation is going to hit on it.
How much ozone you got over your particular part of the world.
Yep.
Oh, jeez. It's a lot of aftermarket manufacturers for decals now.
Yes.
And there are some there that have got some exquisite decals and are very well known. I'm not going to necessarily go and name them because there's a vast array of people out there who are doing it now.
You've got so many manufacturers out there doing decals.
And of course, then you've always got the option of doing your own decals.
Yes, using like a printer, an Alps printer.
Now,
are Alps printers still available? I've
got
seen
no
heard
idea.
of them for years.
Now, I was having trouble with my NASA M113.
That's right, yeah.
APC,
Yep.
the one that was used by NASA as a crew escape. And a good listener and a friend, Steve, actually wrote into me, and he was getting a new printer, and he went and made some decals for me.
Oh, very
which they look absolutely awesome, you know. So I can't wait to sort of get them down and sort of lay them down on the kit now. So I'm really excited about that. So that is another option for you. You can start doing your own decals, or indeed, if you're in a modelling club or in an IPMS chapter, I'm pretty sure that somewhere along the lines you're going to find somebody who has the capacity to do them for you.
Yep.
As another way of getting around.
But then
it.
you've got to do your artwork.
Yeah.
Make sure it's correct. Make sure you've got the right scale.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because Steve and I, we were going backwards and forwards for weeks and weeks. He was doing, I gave him some basic artwork to do, and he found that the artwork wasn't necessarily quite correct. And so I had to back and forth as to, you know, what size is this going to be, you know, this particular thing. So in the end, we got it all nutted out, and he sent me some beautiful sort of decals. So
excellent.
Can't wait for the go down.
Yeah.
But like you said, the other way that you can get around doing decals completely is painting them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of companies out there that are offering masking sets, so you can go and do your stars and bars, your roundels, your crosses, even down to the lettering now.
Yeah, one of the biggest companies is Montex.
Yes.
And Montex make masks for so many different kits out there now. And usually the mask you get with Montex are usually what's supplied, the markings is what's supplied in the kit box anyway. So rather than using the kit decals, you're just using the Montex masks.
Yep. The only issue with the masks is obviously you have to make sure they're lined up exactly.
Well, you've got to do that with a decal anyway.
Yeah, but with a decal, you've got a bit of movement. So if you put it down when it's wet, which you do, you've got a bit of time to sort of move the decal around a bit. Yeah. Whereas a mask, you're putting the mask on the model, you have to be 100% spot on the mask in the right spot before you hit it with paint.
Yeah, well, you put the mask on, but you don't bed it down yet till you've got it in the right position. So you just position the mask just by touch, and then when you got the right when it's in the correct position, then you push it down.
I haven't started using masks like that, but if I was to in the future, what I'd do is I'd get some tape down first on the model to actually identify where the mask has to go down.
Yeah. Because I always use panel lines. I always use panel lines as a guide for where my mask goes anyway.
Geez, I'm coughing a bit today. It's not that I've got anything wrong with me. Well, actually, it's funny. I had a cold last week, and it was just a slight cold. It wasn't a... And you panic these days if you get a cold or something like that, and you go... anyway, so you relax in, you're okay. you don't have to sort of worry. And the other thing, we spoke about this last episode, we touched on it, and you've got rub-on decals now.
Yes.
Which I detest.
Oh, I don't mind them. If you're doing it correctly and using the right tool, you've got to use the right tools.
Yeah, well, I used the right tools and it still didn't work for me.
You got a Letraset applicator?
What's a Letraset applicator?
So you don't have the right tool.
Okay, what's a Letraset applicator?
A Letraset applicator is like a pen, but it's got like a round ball on the end of it, a metal ball, and that's what you use to actually rub on.
No, I didn't have one of them.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what you need. What do you use, like a toothpick or something?
No.
Your thumbnail?
No. I had like a burnishing tool that I used, like a piece of wood, and it's something I usually use to burnish.
A round ball works better. Ball works better.
Okay. Or perhaps
you can buy them. You can buy them at any stationery shop anyway.
Can you really?
Yep.
Never seen them.
Yeah, I've got a couple at home.
Oh, you have a couple at home?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I might have to come around and pinch one off you.
Different sizes. I've got 3 different sizes, depending on what Letraset I'm all. Because I did that years ago when I started doing I went through a stage where I was just doing aircraft, and I wasn't using any of the kit schemes.
Yeah.
I was just finding a photo of a certain aircraft, and then you got to put the right serial number on, and you couldn't find the serial number, so I just went out and bought a whole heap of Letraset sheets and just used the Letraset. And Letraset, they're so thin. And there's no carrier film or anything, and they look like they're painted on.
Are they still around, Letraset?
Not as much anymore. Since computers came in, all that stuff's gone.
I don't remember. I haven't seen a Letraset sheets available for. You used to be able to go to a news agency
Yeah.
or a magazine shop or something like that.
Well,
and
I
there'd be a rack.
got a massive pile of it when the local newsagent decided they were getting rid of it all.
Oh,
I was gonna
really?
throw it out. And the guys boxing. I go, what are you doing with that? And he go, I'm going to chuck it out. They don't sell. And I said, well, I'll have them. He goes, here you go. So I ended up walking home with about 30 different sheets of Letraset.
Yeah.
It's great.
When you're
And now
actually,
you got those decals too. I bought some decals from HGW for me Hellcat, and they're all the stenciling. And you apply them as a decal, and then once everything's dry, you come back later and you can peel the carrier film off.
sorry, what?
You peel the carrier film off
What ones are these?
from HGW, the stencils for the F24 scale Hellcat.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So, how do you apply it to the kit though? You just
like a normal decal. Put it in water,
yeah.
moisten it, put it on, let it sit, come back the next day or half a day later and just go some tweezers and peel the carrier film off, and it just leaves a print behind.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But what about getting it down into like the different crevices and stuff like
It
that?
does all that. So it works exactly like a decal, but the carrier film can come off. It's got like a release agent between the carrier film and the printing.
I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Can you?
Oh, well, I think it was in the late 90s. A few kit manufacturers came out with, it was a bit of a phase that went on for about a year or something where they were selling, that was a popular way of decaling.
Well, why have they gone away from that?
Don't know, maybe people just didn't warm to it.
Or is it more expensive to do? Perhaps.
It probably could be more expensive. You got to think, we modelers, we're creatures of habit. We find one way of doing it and we usually stick with it.
Yeah.
And if something new comes along, it's like, oh, it's people like Julian, the younger crowd that go, oh,
those young whippersnappers.
New shiny thing, we'll do this. Whereas us older fellas, we just, no, this has always worked well for me. I'll just stick with it this way. Even though the new way could be a lot better, but we'll just stick with the way we're comfortable with because we're old and crusty.
Yeah. I've never heard of them. I'm going to have to. Is there a large range of these particular ones? This type of decaling?
Not really.
Yeah, okay.
Not really. They're out there, but as I said, they're not as popular as traditional decals.
Oh, there you go. The only last thing I want to touch on is actually when you're positioning your decal.
Yep.
And I tend not to use the setter product so much. I'll use water. And that way I find I can manoeuvre the decal around a lot more freer. And then when I've got the decal in place, I'll get a cotton bud and I'll put it next to the decal and just wick all that water away. Then I'll put the softener agent on top so I can get the decal down into the crevices and over the humps and bumps, etc., etc.
Yep.
But the issue I found with the normal cotton buds you buy is because there's a lot of sort of fluff in it. So 2 tricks. Number 1, just into my dry mouth, I'll put the cotton bud in there and just twirl it round so it gets rid of all the fluff.
So you give them your kit a DNA sample.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I never thought of that. And also there's a range of cotton buds out there that don't have the high fluff content on it.
Yep.
So you can sort of bed it down.
Tamiya does.
Yeah, there's another Japanese company. I just can't think of the name of it now. But they'll do a whole heap in different sizes as well. So once, as I said, once I've got it positioned exactly where I want it, I'll wick away the excess water. Then I'll put the softener agent on top of the decal just to marry it down.
Yep.
And once I've done that and sort of damped it down with my cotton bud, then I'll get a little bit of water on top of that and just take away that setter agent because I don't want it to continue its reaction.
Yeah, because I have seen it, and it has happened to me before, where actually the setting agent can stain the paint underneath it.
And I've had that experience as well. So I'm very, very careful with how much I put on.
Now, you were talking earlier about positioning.
Yes.
I've built, as you know, Dave, I've built a few of the old early Micromere submarine kits.
Yes.
Now, their decals are really thin.
Yeah.
But the one thing I found with their decals, even if you've got a shiny paint job underneath, as soon as those things hit the plastic, they don't move. They just basically just
Yep.
and they're stuck there. So you got to make sure that where you put that decal, the first place is the place you want it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can put a bubble of water underneath it, but as soon as that decal touches the plastic, it's there forever. And that can be freaking annoying because I've had a few times where I've had to just scrape the decal off and then paint it
Yeah, wow.
because it's just not quite going in the right position or the right angle, and it's just stuck and you just can't move it.
And I have found that when I've put a decal down and wicked all the way the water, and I've held the model up and I've gone, oh, gee, it's slightly in the wrong position, I find that if you flood that particular area with water again, you can reinvigorate and then get to move the decal a little bit more.
Yeah, what I find in that position is, especially when you modern kits where you've got recessed panel lines, is you tend to get a small paintbrush with the water and shove it in the panel line underneath the decal.
Yep.
Because that's where it's a larger area for the water to seep into, rather than try. Because once it's on the plastic, once it's on the paint, this is not even a micron between it. So you want to have somewhere where there's a panel line where you know you're going to have a little bit of play, and that's where you pop your water in, and that will lift the deck. Well, 9 out of 10 times should lift the decal up.
For me personally, when I'm putting decals down, I never use tweezers or anything like that.
Don't use sharp objects at all.
I just use a little brush.
Yep.
A very fine brush, and I'll maneuver it around because I find that I can get the bristles both underneath the decal and on top of the decal at the same time, which helps me to sort of maneuver it around. And even sometimes I'll use 2 brushes just to maneuver and walk the decal into the position that I want it to be in.
Yes. Yeah, because you don't want to use like tweezers or toothpicks because that's a sharp area and you just run the risk of tearing your decal.
Yeah, absolutely. No, never. I've actually had that happen where I've actually torn a decal, and ever since then I've discovered using a brush, and I even used a brush to take the decal off its backing film to sort of apply onto the kit itself.
Yep.
And I'll just sort of put the decal down, put the brush on top quite firmly, and I'll pull the sheet underneath, and the decal will sort of stay on exactly almost where I want it.
Yep. That's a good way of doing it.
Yep.
Totally agree.
And those particular brushes are dedicated only for decals.
Yeah, so they've had paint on it. Anyway.
Exactly right. Move. And they're the top quality ones, so that you don't lose any bristles out of them either.
It'd be nothing worse than finding a bristle underneath your decal.
Wouldn't it drive you nuts?
Yeah.
yeah, agree 100%.
Definitely. Yuck.
All right. Well, I think that's about it, really.
That's been
you
a
got
good
any other sort
chat.
of thoughts on decaling, the dark art of decals?
Off the top of my head, just be very careful. Don't use too much decal setting solution because that can melt decals.
And the other thing too is practice. Get yourself a mule and practice various techniques of a decal onto a mule.
Yeah.
So try the different techniques we've spoken about. Have a look on YouTube at different techniques on YouTube and practice them or try them on a paint mule.
Yeah, don't be afraid to try new ways of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. Try Ian's method of the Tamiya extra thin.
But be very, very careful.
But again, only try it on a paint mule until you get confident in applying that sort of technique.
Yep.
And practice, and let us know how you went. You can send us an email to onthebench64@gmail.com. And we love hearing about your trials, successes, and also we love hearing about your disasters as well, because other people
we've all had them.
Other people can learn, can't they?
Yeah, you can always learn from other people and your own mistakes.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
All right, well, I think that's it. Hopefully we'll be back in a fortnight and Julian will be back with us.
Yeah.
This feels like the old days where it's just you and me. Remember those days? Yeah.
And when Julian used to come in occasionally as a special guest.
He was a special guest, and now he's just special.
Yeah, that's right. With his own fan base.
Oh, dear. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll be back in a fortnight.
Bye-bye.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. It was unfortunate that Julian couldn't be here with us, but that's okay. We got by without him anyway. As always, don't forget to pop over and have a listen to our good friends Anthony and Stuart at the Scale Model Podcast, and also those whiskey-sipping banjo pickers over at Plastic Model Mojo, our good friends from Kentucky, Michael and Dave. We'll be back with you in a fortnight, and in the meantime, stay safe out there, guys, in these trying and tumultuously different times, make sure that you cough into your elbow and stay safe. Catch you later. Bye.